And it's a huge advantage if you have somebody who can be recognised as that.
Because there is no good time.
That nature is a separate thing from us and we can just exploit.
Royal insiders claim Buckingham Palace has never been this tense. Prince Andrew broke tradition, reading Queen Elizabeth's final will, and what he revealed has left Charles, William, and even Anne speechless. Did the Queen's last words change the royal family's future forever? Keep watching as we uncover the truth behind the chaos. The royal family sat in silence, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. The long-anticipated reading of Queen Elizabeth's will had finally arrived. Every gaze was locked on the sealed document resting on the polished table in Buckingham Palace's drawing room. This was a moment they had all expected, but no one was truly prepared for what came next. Tradition dictated that King Charles should be the one to open and read his mother's final words. Yet, when the time came, it was Prince Andrew who stepped forward.
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady.
A ripple of surprise passed through the room. Why him? The decision felt unusual, almost unsettling. Charles's expression didn't change, but the slight tension in his posture spoke volumes. William shot a glance at his father, but quickly looked away. Even Anne, always composed, seemed momentarily taken aback. Andrew hesitated for a fraction of a second before breaking the wax seal. Was this a message from the Queen? Was there a reason she had entrusted this task to him instead of the new king? The silence in the room grew heavier as Andrew unfolded the first page, his voice steady yet uncertain, and then he began to read. The rustle of paper echoed in the stillness as Andrew carefully smoothed out the pages. The words he was about to read had the power to reshape the monarchy. The Queen's final will wasn't just about property or wealth, it was about legacy, about the future. The air in the room felt charged, a mixture of anticipation and unease. What secrets lay within these pages? The Queen had ruled for 70 years, carefully balancing tradition and change. Now, her last words would dictate the path forward. Andrew cleared his throat, his fingers tightening slightly around the paper.
Because there is no good time to talk about.
His voice, though controlled, carried the weight of what was to come. "This is my final will," he read. For a brief second, it was as if the Queen herself had spoken. A chill ran through the room. Some faces remained unreadable, while others showed flickers of emotion. Concern, curiosity, even discomfort. Then he read the first name, King Charles. The entire room braced itself. Everyone expected him to inherit the heart of the monarchy's wealth, but as Andrew continued, it became clear. The Queen had made some unexpected choices. Andrew's voice was steady as he read the Queen's message to her eldest son. "To my beloved son Charles, I entrust Windsor Castle." It was expected, almost a formality. Charles gave a small nod, his expression unreadable. But then Andrew read further. Instead of inheriting all royal estates as many had assumed, Charles's name didn't appear where it was expected.
As it were, we were close friends.
Balmoral, the Queen's favorite retreat, was not solely his. And Sandringham? It was missing from his list entirely. A subtle tension settled over Charles. The way he sat, the slight shift of his jaw. It was clear this was not what he had anticipated. Why had his mother broken with tradition? The answer came in the next revelation. Sandringham was not his, but Anne's. The room stirred. Anne, calm as ever, showed no outward emotion, but the flicker of surprise in her eyes was undeniable. Why had the Queen chosen her instead of her eldest son? Charles's hands tightened on the armrest of his chair. This was not just about land. This was about power, authority, and the very structure of the monarchy. And it was clear the Queen had decided to shake things up. Sandringham, a private royal estate for generations, had always been associated with the reigning monarch. Yet, the Queen had left it to Anne. For the first time, Charles' expression flickered. It was subtle, a tightening around his eyes, a slow breath through his nose. Anne, ever the dutiful royal, merely inclined her head, but behind the composed facade, the reality was clear. This was an unprecedented move. Why Anne? Those in the room could only speculate. Had the Queen recognized her quiet dedication? Had she seen in her daughter the stability and resilience the monarchy needed? Charles's thoughts were impossible to read, but those who knew him well could see it. This wasn't what he had expected. As Andrew continued reading, it became evident. The Queen had deliberately restructured the monarchy's future, and she wasn't done yet. Then came Balmoral. Unlike past traditions, it was not left to a single heir. Andrew read aloud, "Balmoral will be a shared legacy among the family." The silence in the room was deafening. Balmoral, the Queen's retreat, where she spent her final days, was now a collective inheritance. Charles's fingers drummed against his knee. This was not how things had been done before. Balmoral had always been controlled by the reigning monarch, but the Queen had decided otherwise. Was this a move to keep the family together, or a sign that she didn't want absolute power resting in one person's hands? One thing was clear, the balance of power was shifting. Just as the tension settled, another unexpected moment arose. To Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, Andrew read, "I leave the Vladimir tiara." Catherine blinked, her expression neutral. But those who knew her well saw the emotion flicker in her eyes. This tiara was more than jewelry. It was a message, a symbol of continuity and grace. The Queen had chosen to acknowledge Catherine's role in the monarchy's future. Some saw it as an honor, others as a clear sign of what was to come. Even as Catherine remained still, taking in the moment, William cast a glance at his father. What did this mean for their future? Then the name no one expected to hear, Prince Harry. Andrew hesitated for just a second before continuing. To Harry, I leave the ceremonial sword of King George VI. A visible shift in the room. William stiffened. Charles's jaw set. Why had the Queen left this to Harry? Was it a peace offering or something more? The weight of the past years hung over them. Harry had stepped away, yet he was still in his grandmother's thoughts. Was this a message of reconciliation or a reminder of responsibility? Either way, the decision stirred emotions no one had expected. As Andrew continued reading, the focus shifted to the younger generation, the future of the monarchy. To my great-grandchildren, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, I leave not only the treasures of our family, but also the knowledge I have gained over the years. Catherine's fingers tightened slightly around William's hand. This was about more than jewelry or estates. It was about preparing the next generation for the weight of royal duty. The Queen had seen many challenges during her reign. She knew that wealth alone wouldn't sustain the monarchy. It was the lessons, the wisdom, and the values passed down that truly mattered. Then came a surprise. To my great-grandson, Prince Louis, I leave a letter written by hand. A letter? Not a tiara, not an estate, but something personal. The Queen had chosen to write directly to the youngest of them all. Perhaps she knew that by the time Louis was old enough to understand his place in the family, her voice would no longer be there to guide him. But through this letter, her words would live on. And just like that, her influence stretched into the future. One final lesson for a grandson who would one day read her words and understand. The room was completely silent as Andrew turned to the last page of the Queen's will. Everyone knew that these final words were not about wealth or power. They were about something bigger. Some glanced around the room. Others kept their eyes on Andrew, listening carefully. These words were more than just a farewell. They were a warning. The Queen had ruled for 70 years. She had seen moments of great strength and times when the monarchy was on shaky ground. Through it all, she had held the family together. But now, it was up to them. For years, he had waited for the throne. He had spent his life preparing for this moment. But now, as he listened to his mother's words, he realized that the role of a king was more than just ruling. It was serving. William's expression was calm, but his mind was racing. His turn would come one day. Would he follow these words? Would he be the leader his grandmother had hoped for? Had the Queen chosen her words carefully, knowing that William's leadership would define the future? And what about Harry? His name had already been mentioned in the will. Would he take this message as a reminder that family bonds should never be broken? The Queen had left a clear message for all of them. The Queen had done all she could. Now, the future of the monarchy was in their hands, and the world was watching. What do you think about the Queen's final decisions? Let's discuss in the comments.